The Grant Podcast. It's the Grant Podcast. Once again, we're going to intro. Alright, so I'm going to get myself some headphones over here. Make this look like a real recording studio. But today we're going to talk about bad teachers again. And I'm going to try this so I can put my headphones in. And I don't know what this is doing. I think it's still recording. But, let's go ahead and... Yep, that's our little intro. So here what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and read some forum stories about keeping children off their phone on a teacher's website, like Teacher 41. So, some people say, I've heard of one teacher who collected them as they entered the room and returned them after class. Others have set up as calculator organizers, and that takes you back to like the 2000s, on the wall, and kids can put the phones in there and can virtually see it. And you gotta find ways to use it in the classroom. And we're gonna touch on a couple different stories on public schools and how public schools are very severely underfunded, and they don't know what to do. I mean, yes, there's problems in the public schools wherever you go. I mean, if you get the largest high school in the state or the smallest high school in the state, I mean, there's always going to be problems. And there's definitely guidelines that are set by the state, and minimum teacher requirements. And let's pick a random state. I don't know. Illinois. We'll just say Illinois. Teacher to student ratio, and it looks like it's 19-1, which is pretty good. And then like the intervention teachers, it's 11-1 in the high school, which is better than the state I reside in, which are low. So we're going to get into bad teachers, and this is a topic where we're not going to name names and everything. What we're going to do is we're going to talk, and we're going to talk quickly about just some experiences I've had in public schools. So one of them is, in my state, you have to have like 20, as a school I go to, you have to have like 23 credits to graduate, which some of the schools in the state I reside in require 15, some require 1T, so some, this one steps it up. But anyway, so I had this one teacher in the English class, who, I'm going to say this, and you're going to hear a lot on this podcast about crosswords. I dig me some crosswords. Crosswords are fun, they're easy, so we'll even host an episode where I talk about crossword and variety puzzle history, and we do one on the podcast, and we do all this. But I wanted to touch on this. So this teacher, she's probably been teaching 20 years at least. She's no spring chicken. So we do this thing called Friday Periods, which is essentially the teachers want to break the grade, so they turn us loose with a novel. Like, you pick your novel, and you have to read it for the 15-minute class period. So I was usually reading novels, and right now I'm reading Better by M.J. Lang, which is a good book if you're going to check out a good book. I'll post a review on the podcast here soon. I usually have a novel. I keep about 12 of my personal novels in my locker, which are half lockers, and the combo locks are a pain, but anyway. So I had, I'm going to do brand names on here. Penny Press Family Favorites crossword puzzles to solve, during the time that she was talking. So I thought, I'm just going to go ahead and do this. It's still reading, and I had one teacher years ago that said, I don't care what you're reading as long as you're reading, which I find that definitely most to be true. And so, me being the fiery person I am, I'm going to pull up a letter I wrote to her with the names redacted. I said, Dear Miss Redaction, with Friday coming up, I would like to talk about the free writing that we do on Friday. In the past, I have read and solved a crossword puzzle for free reading and have solved it with no problems. A couple of weeks ago, to be honest, I can't even think of the date, but it happened in November or December. I just wanted to say something about this. I am just unconventional reading and not conventional reading, like reading a novel like A Mice and Men, which we just read. I don't know if you know this, but on how I do a crossword during Friday free read, I read the clues and I have to think about the answer. This works on reading skills and strange vocab words as I've come across them. I have to write them in, which is working on handwriting and spelling. I had a teacher at my old school that said, and I quote you, "I don't care what you are reading as long as you are reading." And I believe that to be true. I do not mean to sound angry, but I am just trying to let you know, get your opinion on what it is. Get your opinion on it. I am just trying to have a normal conversation. If you'd please let me know when you're available on what to chat about. I'm available blank and blank. Thank you, Grant Isaacs, which is money. So, Snapchat. Anyway, so definitely there's been some definite, when she says, "Where's your book?" And I'm like, this is a book. I'm like, are we stupid here? I didn't say that, but I was thinking that. I say I fight teacher BS one class at a time. I said there's too much of it in public schools, and I'm going to do as much as I can in the public school I go to fight this, to where teachers and students equally have power. And this is also an administration issue, which we're going to get into the next teacher story. So definitely there's teachers that shouldn't belong in education. Now, we're not going to name names. I would never name names. But I would say that this teacher, if you listen to this, you know who you are. But anyway, hated cell phones, hated headphones, hated cell phones, literally thought of them as the devil, and I'll tell you why. Since the first day I've been in public school in a few years, and I just decided, hey, I'm going to put headphones in because this teacher's boring. I've since dropped the class, but this has stayed with me and brought this situation up to administration, like, hey, we need to get a district-wide cell phone policy, as I touched on last podcast. Well, she goes, what did she say? Oh, what did she say? No, I can't even think. Take those off. And then she goes in, so I took them off, unwillingly complying, because you know what, it's my first day. I don't want to drive the teacher nuts on my first day. But anyway, I go ahead and I take them off, and she then immediately says, "I don't like headphones on in my class. It shows me respect that you were listening. I don't like cell phones. You can use them when I say they're okay. Again, only when they're okay." So I think that's fine. Like, okay, but the way she did it, and then it also brings up the issue of administration giving teachers too much power. There's definitely been a lot of schools that have banned cell phones because the administration is not proactive, not reactive. And that's a whole different political issue. I have no problems getting political on here. The only thing I don't allow is cussing, except maybe the HELL board a couple of times. But other than that, no, this is a very family-centered and family-friendly podcast that we discuss real-life issues on. So anyway, it was just definitely interesting, and how this was brought up, and so it got me thinking and got me researching. Schools are definitely, cell phones are more prominent now than ever. Workplaces are using the workplace. Everywhere just finally gotten on the cell phone bandwagon. They finally woken up and realized cell phones are a part of life. I mean, workplaces embrace them. So why in the schools are we definitely taking it and this is a method, you can Google this, but it's called the blanket method. And we're not naming names. That's something I'm going to tell you right now on this podcast. We're very anonymous. We would never name names. We would never do anything. So if you ever have a story to share on my podcast, be sure to send it to me and I will redact all names. Because I do not want to get that coming back to bite me. Because it will. Don't get me wrong, it will. And I don't want that. So anyway. So yeah, definitely a hard time, but definitely most interesting time. So definitely, teachers, I'm going to link my email somewhere. It's grantpodcast@aol.com. Again, it's grantpodcast@aol.com. If you're listening to this, if you ever have a suggestion for a story or something you want me to cover or just something you want to get on the airwaves, email me, grantpodcast@aol.com. And we will set up a time for you to send me your story. I'm not going to do live guests on the podcast. It'll just be me. Occasionally my cousin or my grandparents will come in and they'll talk on the podcast. But that is about it. The only thing that will happen is episodes will be deleted. Every so often they will be deleted to make space for more. Now these do transcribe to YouTube, which as far as I know, the YouTube podcasts don't go away. But I'm not too sure. Again, I don't know. So I have to experiment with that and see if they don't go away, we'll go and they'll be archived on the YouTube at GSO's Radio AUX account is the email I have sent to this. So we're going to close out another podcast session and we're going to get to the legal disclaimers. Bye-bye. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed more, wait for the next episode. If you did not, why are you still listening? For more details, and if you have a question for Grant's podcast host or want to have your story featured on the podcast, email grantpodcast@aol.com. Thank you. Have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.